Hollywood, brilliant tinsel city of lights and fantasy. Hollywood, glorified, glittering, fascinating, fabulous, mythical kingdom. The glamour capital of the world.
This is the corner of Sunset and Gower. An intersection like any other in Los Angeles, except for its history. In 1911, across the street on the northwest corner, there was a roadhouse called the Blondeau Tavern, and a producer from Centaur Films in Bayonne, New Jersey, thought it might be an ideal place to make westerns. It was. He bought the site, renamed his company Nestor Films, and built the very first studio in Hollywood. 2 years later, in 1913, Cecil B. DeMille rented a barn not far away to shoot The Squaw Man, the first feature-length film. It was a hit, and Hollywood was in business. Hollywood is often said to be a state of mind, but it was also a real place. Later, the studios would spread out all across the Los Angeles basin, but in the beginning, they were all here, within sight of that Hollywood sign behind me. Most of those early studios, like Nestor, churned out one-reel comedies and westerns, quickies, 3 a week. So many westerns were made here, in fact, that the corner was nicknamed Gower Gulch. Today, Gower Gulch is a shopping mall, but some of old Hollywood still exists. Across from the Gulch is former Columbia Pictures. Further down Gower at Melrose is the old RKO studio. And further along Melrose is mighty Paramount Pictures, the last of the major studios still operating in Hollywood. Stardust is about a time, 1945, when all these studios were at the peak of their success. And in Stardust there's another studio just down Gower Street, Continental Pictures, run by its tight-fisted boss, Saul Lausner. Like all the others, Continental got its start making westerns, and Stardust opens the way so many of those westerns did. A man rides into town. Of course, in 1945, he's riding a train. Union Station, completed in 1939, was the last great terminal built in America. If you were lucky, as our protagonist Ben Collier was, you'd be arriving on the Santa Fe's Super Chief, Chicago to Los Angeles, in just under 40 hours. This was how movie stars and studio bosses traveled. Ben meets both on the train, leaving New York Friday evening, arriving Los Angeles Monday morning to stream out those doors into the blazing California sunshine. The city they would find was very different from the one we know now. The war had made Los Angeles a boomtown, and in 1945 its population was about to explode, but that was later. Right now it seemed to most Americans a kind of paradise, for what made Los Angeles different was not just sun, but the movies. A star like Paulette Goddard, whom Ben met on the train, played hostess at the Hollywood Canteen. A soldier on leave might get into Ciro's or the Macombo, or even, as Ben does in Stardust, dance at the fabled Coconut Grove, where the fake palm trees were said to have come from the set of Valentino's The Sheik. Ben has come to Hollywood to make a documentary for the Army, and he finds the contrast to the war-battered Europe he has just left jarring. Not starving children in bombed-out cities anymore, but milkshakes and Betty Grable movies. What he doesn't yet know is that this Eden also hides a murder he will have to solve, or that Hollywood is about to come under siege, attacked by politicians determined to use some of its stardust for their own purposes. Hollywood in Stardust is at the top of its game, living through a boom it thought would never end. This is the old Columbia lot, and it looks the way Continental would have just across the street. And to be on a lot like this was to be awed by its professionalism. Sets went up overnight. Film was shot and turned into something magic. Hollywood manufactured dreams, and in 1945 it seemed they were the dreams everyone wanted. U.S. box office in 45 was about $1.5 billion, and that's in 1940s dollars. Louis B. Mayer was the highest paid executive in the country, and a decade later, it was gone. Ben begins to see a seemingly invulnerable system about to be undermined by new technology, new taste, and its own moral cowardice in the face of political attack. An industry once praised for its patriotism is now accused of being subversive, un-American. But meanwhile, here on the lot, the picture still needs to be finished, with an opening night just around the corner. Stardust ends with a premiere here at the Egyptian Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. The Egyptians started a craze for big themed movie palaces along Hollywood Boulevard. By 1945, the Egyptian had been remodeled. There was a large marquee over the forecourt, now gone too, but the premieres were as glamorous as ever. The premiere in Stardust, as premieres should, will make a new star. For Ben, it will mean even more. A chance finally to see things as they are. A murder, a love affair, the business of the studio, without being obstructed by Stardust. What he discovers underneath its magic is not what he expected. But in 1945, we're a long way from Gower Gulch, only a few blocks from here in space, but a world of innocence away, and not even westerns have simple endings anymore. Stardust is a novel, but it's fiction about a real place, Hollywood, and a real time, 1945. About an industry that went from one-reelers to nights flooded with Klieg lights, dazzling everyone along the way, maybe most of all, itself.